Okay, you guys didn't see it or experience it, but my program crashed so bad that it actually took out the video editor too. Literally, the video editor just completely disappeared. So what went wrong? Well, let's have a look at this thing and see. Trace back, and it comes down here, value error, invalid literal for integer with base 10. Okay, so what this is basically telling me is that we tried to give it an input, and I was typing things in so fast that I hit an enter key that had no value whatsoever. So in other words, I violated my my input business. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to write a module that will handle the error checking on my integers. So how do we do that? We'll come up here very quickly. Okay, we'll say define. I'll call it int input, like so, and I don't need any input to the integer, right? I don't need to pass anything into this module. So the first thing I want to do is I want to say in is equal to, actually let's do it this way, we're going to go try like so. Do I need to do it that way? Nah, we won't do it there. I'm going to go in is equal to, and I'm going to grab a hold of my score right there, Control C. In is equal to input the score. Okay, and I'm going to leave myself a space because I know that I'm going to want to do something here real quick. All right, so in is equal to enter the score. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say try, and I'm going to say I, for lack of a better variable name, or I'll just say no, I for integer. Okay, so I is going to be equal to int in. Now the reason I'm sticking that in a try catch variable is because I don't want it to kill my program if it fails, right? So catch is going to be, I think, exception. There it is, except EXCE, there we go, except print, whoops, just having all kinds of fun with this print business. Print, open parenthesis, expected, and integer. Try again. And I think we have that part of it done. So I have a little marker at the end of this. I'm not sure why. I guess because, did I make a mistake somewhere? Hover and see what it says. We're not getting an error. Okay, well, let's continue on and see how this thing flies. Okay, rather than make you watch me type all this stuff in, I type this in real quick. I don't even know if it's going to work, but we're certainly going to try it out. Okay, so what exactly is happening here? Well, the first thing I did was I know that I'm going to be returning an integer I. So I went ahead and I set it equal to 0 to initialize it. This is a habit that I've gotten in because of working with programs that do not actually initialize their variables to a specific state. This is a good habit to be in. I set done equals to false. So basically we're not done. While not done, string in, and as you recall from the earlier portion of the video, I used the keyword in by accident. Okay, string in equals input, enter the score, and then I'm going to try to convert what I just inputted into an integer, and if I succeed, done will be marked as true. I will return I will jump out of the loop. Okay, or rather, done will be true. I will jump out of the loop and then return I. But if this fails, if I use a letter in the alphabet or a null string or something along those lines, then the except should catch the thing, right? And give me a message saying expected an integer, try again, and move me back into business. So let's run this thing and see if it in fact works, okay? So it says enter the score, and if I just hit enter, well, first of all, I'll use the alphabet, and it crashed. All right, so that means I'm going to have to do some debugging. Double check down here, string, well, that's crashing because of this. Get rid of that. I didn't even take advantage of my nice little routine that I wrote, right? So let's fix that. Come down here. There. I've written my nice neat little routine. Now let's try it. Enter the score, try that out, and it comes back and says expected an integer. Try again. This time I'm just going to hit enter and see if it crashes. Cool, it didn't crash. So this thing works like a champ. And as I recall, we were trying to find out what the average of the first 10 digits was or something like that, right? So enter 10 scores. 0 is 1, 2. See? Of course, I missed one. And what I should probably do is put in a little message that says you entered something, right? But down here it's now giving me that the total is 48 and that the average is that. So what's the challenge here? Well, the challenge is that since I'm running the Python project through a debugging environment, I need to give it a second to accept my number, okay? This is a limitation of working in IDEs. But once I compile this thing and have it as an actual executable program, it would be very, very fast. We wouldn't have to worry about any of that stuff. So it missed the score. It definitely missed the score, but that's no big deal. See, down there is the 5. We were able to get our array populated. That's what counts. That's what we were looking to do, okay? And at the same time, we made ourselves our own little cool integer input function, right? Our own little module for inputting integers. And we could do the same thing with inputting floats, couldn't we? We could create a thing called float input and a thing called maybe character input or anything along those lines, in which case we would write some kind of code that would look at the input to make sure that it is in the form that we want it to be in, and then pass it on. Once these things are written and they work to your satisfaction, then you can forget about them. You just save it in a little library and you grab a hold of it later on. Since I'm thinking about a modular design in this whole operation, I think what I'll do is take the student scores, this input section right here, and I'll turn it into its own little section, okay? For example, up here it says, please enter 10 scores. Well, obviously, we might want a different number of scores, right? So what I can do is I can copy this literally. I copied this whole section of code right here, verbatim, and I place it up here. The only difference is I am now going to use X right there, and up here I have an input variable called X. So I can do the same thing again, and I can say that scores is equal to scores in, and let's say that we want to get 10 scores, all right? So hopefully that will work, and I need to change this to scores. And let's see if that flies, okay? Oh, I've got to fix this as well. Scores. Just like so. And change that one to scores. Well, we make a little change and we've got to do all kinds of craziness, huh? And since I'm having so much fun, I'm going to make this 5 so I don't have to enter so many scores. So let's hit the run button. Enter the score, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it comes back and says that the total is 15 and that the average is 3. Okay? Makes sense? 5 and 4 is 9. There's 12. 14 and 15. Sure enough, it works out really good. So I'm happy about that. Well, I created a thing here also called Cumulator 0. This critter here figures out what the total is, right? So while I'm having fun, I'm going to come up here directly above this, and I'm going to say, we'll get rid of this. I'm just going to say def, define function, and I will say total scores. S-C-O-R-E-S-T-O-T-A-L. Total scores, right? And the total scores, I'm going to need the array. So I'll just say S for the array name. Put in a colon here because it doesn't really care what I call it, right? I just need to make sure and follow my little handy rule. And since I'm using down here IN scores, yeah, that'll work. So I'll go here like this, Control X to grab it out of there. Here's my little defined function I'm working on. Tab these guys in so that that's working correctly. And here I'm going to say S. Does that make sense to everybody? So the accumulator is equal to 0 for some score in the list of scores. Add them together, and then again we will return, in this case, accumulator, right? Actually, I'm going to make it so it's easier to understand. Total, T-O-T-A-L, total. So we know that it's adding the totals, okay? And since I'm doing all of that, why not go ahead and define a function that will calculate the average for me, right? See, did I do a total already? No, okay, there's my input. Here's the scores to get them. Here's the total. Let's do a function that does average. DEF, define function scores. AVE for average. You see how you can really get to going on something like this? Once you get started, you can get a lot of stuff done pretty darn fast, okay? AVE is, I better not use AV. I'll just say A for average is equal to, and the reason I'm not using AVE is because it could be a keyword, all right? So A is equal to 0 for the average. And now what I'm going to do is I am just going to say that total, T, or A, actually, I can do it this way. This will be really easy. You ready for this one, guys? I'm going to say return. I want to take the total, S-C-O-R-E-S, scores, total, that one right there, give it S, right, divided by the length of S, just like that. That's going to give me my average, right? Wow, that was really easy. So I have print, please enter, say 5 scores. That's what I'm playing around with. So we'll score in 5, right? And we're going to print our 5 scores, which is fine. If I can do that, get it to work for me. So we'll print our 5 scores. Then we will print total is equal to, and see how I put a little space after that, and I'll go comma and get my total score, right? Scores total right there, and in this case this one, right? So there, we've got our total scores. We figured out what the total score is. Now we want to figure out what the average is, and I'll just say print average is equal to, and I have score average S again up there, so once again I'll do a comma, and we'll try our luck with score average. Don't know for sure if it'll work. It's different from one language to the next, but that's all right. Down here, average is equal to that. And ultimately, I want to find my maximum and minimum score in the list as well, just for the fun of it, okay? So we can get rid of all of this. We don't need that anymore. Save it and run it. So the score, first score, we'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we received a crash. So what went wrong with this thing? Well, it's saying that local variable ACCM referenced before assignment. Okay, so let's go up here and see what's going on. How about total? That look a little better? And see if we ran into that anywhere else. I think we're okay. So